What if the beauty you chase is the storm you invite? This archetype has two faces, the goddess and the monster. Theirs is a dual nature, both sublime and terrifying. The siren's call, delicate yet dangerous. In this video, we'll be exploring the dark side of the feminine. Specifically, how she, this archetype, can both inspire and destroy. In his book, Psychology of the Feminine, Carl Jung described this principle as the anima, the feminine archetype within the psyche of every man. He said that when it comes to the subject of women, men are like children who have been let loose in a world they do not understand. And so we become obsessed with whatever woman captures our fancy. And then once that doesn't work out, we blame ourselves and think something's wrong with us, but this is just part of the journey towards understanding her. Beauty is a spiritual seduction. We all have an instinctual need to pursue and capture beauty. It's a universal human experience. But what we don't realize is that beauty can be blinding. The more beautiful a thing is, the more we lose ourselves in it, and the less we see clearly. We begin to idealize the object of our desire, putting them up on a pedestal and surrounding them with a kind of halo effect. And this is where things get dangerous, because when we build someone up that high, there's nowhere for them to go but down, and we find ourselves inevitably disappointed. We tend to look at relationships through rose-colored glasses, which means we often don't see the red flags or ignore them because we're too busy fantasizing about what could be. This is the path of least resistance, the way of the dreamer. And the problem with dreaming is that it's easy to get lost in fantasy and never wake up. When we first meet her, she is an unknown quantity. We don't know who she is or what she wants. And this is exciting. The mystery makes her more desirable, but it also makes us feel a little bit afraid because the unknown is always a little bit scary. So we start to project our own desires onto her, and this creates a fantasy figure. And the more we idealize her, the more she becomes an object of desire rather than an actual person. And this is when things start to go wrong because the fantasy is not real. So when the reality doesn't match up to the fantasy, we're left feeling disappointed. And the more invested we are in the fantasy, the more devastating the disappointment. Many of us suffer from this. We fall in love with the idea of love, with the fantasy of what it might be like to be in a relationship. But we don't actually want to be in a relationship with a real person who has real needs and real problems. We want to be in love with the idea of love. And this is where the danger lies. Because when we're in love with the idea of love, we're not actually open to receiving love. We're not open to being vulnerable and letting someone in. And this is what love requires. Love requires vulnerability, openness, and a willingness to be real. But if we're too busy fantasizing about what love should be like, we'll never be able to experience it. This is the curse of the creative obsessed. People who are consumed by their work, their art, or their craft often live in a kind of fantasy world. They're so caught up in their own minds that they're not really living in the real world. They're not interacting with other people in a meaningful way, and this can be very destructive. It can lead to addiction, obsession, and even madness. For example, let's say you're a writer and you're working on a novel. You're so caught up in the story you're telling yourself that you're not taking care of your health. You're not seeing your friends. You're neglecting your responsibilities. You're just writing and writing and writing. You're so focused on finishing the book that you don't realize that you're losing yourself in the process. You're losing your identity. You're losing your sense of who you are outside of your work. And this is the danger of the creative obsession. It's the danger of losing yourself in your work, in your art, in your craft. The archetypal story of the femme fatale goes back centuries. From the Greek myth of Medusa to the biblical story of Jezebel to modern-day tales of toxic girlfriends. There's a long tradition of stories about dangerous women who lure unsuspecting men to their doom. And these stories still resonate with us today because they tap into our deepest fears about the feminine. What if the woman we love is actually our destroyer? What if she's leading us to our doom? These are the questions that keep us up at night. When we think about the dangerous feminine, we often think about the femme fatale, the woman who uses her sexuality to manipulate and control men. But the truth is that the dangerous feminine is much more complex than that. She is both the femme fatale and the innocent victim. She is the one who leads men to their doom, but she is also the one who suffers because of it. So what is it that makes the feminine so dangerous? Why does she both attract and repel us? Why does she captivate our imaginations while simultaneously terrifying us? If she is so dangerous, why do we keep coming back to her? You see, the feminine is a source of great power, both creative and destructive. She is the life force of the universe. She is the source of all creation, but she is also a force to be reckoned with. She is powerful and passionate, but she can also be jealous and vindictive. The feminine is a mirror. She reflects back to us our own darkness and our own light, and this is what makes her so fascinating. She shows us the best and worst of ourselves. She brings out the hero in us, but she also brings out the villain. The key to understanding the feminine is realizing that she is not separate from us. She is a part of us. We all have a feminine side, whether we're male or female. And the more we deny our feminine side, the more we try to suppress it, the more it grows underground. And when the shadow grows too big, it bursts out of the unconscious and into our conscious life in the form of a crisis. It's no coincidence that many of the greatest artists and creators were men who had a deep understanding of the feminine. Men who were able to integrate their feminine side into their lives were able to create some of the most beautiful and moving works of art in history. Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and William Shakespeare are just a few examples. These men understood the importance of the feminine. They knew that it was not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. But what happens when we ignore our feminine side, when we deny it, repress it, or try to control it? What happens when we try to live in a world of only masculine energy? Jung said that when the feminine is ignored or suppressed, it grows underground and eventually bursts out of the unconscious in the form of a crisis. When the shadow grows too big, it bursts out of the unconscious and into our conscious life in the form of a crisis. The feminine is a source of great power. She is the life force of the universe. She is the source of all creation. But she is also a force to be reckoned with. She is powerful and passionate, but she can also be jealous and vindictive. The feminine is a mirror. She reflects back to us our own darkness and our own light. And this is what makes her so fascinating. She shows us the best and worst of ourselves. She brings out the hero in us, but she also brings out the villain. The key to understanding the feminine is realizing that she is not separate from us. She is a part of us. We all have a feminine side, whether we're male or female. And the more we deny our feminine side, the more we try to suppress it, the more it grows underground. And when the shadow grows too big, it bursts out of the unconscious and into our conscious life in the form of a crisis. Women are not the enemy. We don't need to fear them. We don't need to objectify them or put them on pedestals. We just need to understand them. We need to understand ourselves. We need to integrate our feminine side, both the light and the dark. If you've ever been inspired by a woman, you know what I mean. It's like a fire that burns inside you, a passion that drives you to create, to achieve, to be more. But if you've ever been obsessed with a woman, you know how dangerous it can be. It's like a fire that consumes you, a passion that destroys you from the inside out. The difference between inspiration and obsession is a fine line, but it's a line that must be crossed. To stay on the side of inspiration, we must learn to respect the feminine, to honor her power, to listen to her wisdom. If we do this, she will inspire us, guide us, and help us to create. But if we cross the line into obsession, we will lose ourselves. Our creativity will turn to madness, our passion to destruction. In his book, Psychology of the Feminine, Jung wrote, "No man can have a really passionate nature unless he has an unconscious feminine." And this is true. We need the feminine in our lives, whether we're men or women. We need to embrace it, to celebrate it, and to honor it. When we do this, we open ourselves up to the beauty and power of the feminine. But if we reject it, if we try to deny it or control it, we lose ourselves. Jung also wrote that the task of the individual is to integrate the feminine and masculine aspects of their personality. And this is what we're after. The integration of the feminine and masculine, the balance of these two forces within us, is what allows us to be whole, complete individuals. It's when we lose ourselves in one or the other that we become unbalanced and incomplete. So the next time you meet a woman who inspires you, remember the words of Carl Jung: "She can awaken your fire or burn your soul. Which path will you take?" Real power is found in balance, not blindness.